Hi there again, everyone. Leanne here, and welcome back to my channel. So today I have my Gideon book out right here because I want to kind of suggest or say what books I think Gideon might like based on what I've read. So yeah, I thought I would just tell you my thoughts about the kind of books Gideon the Ninth or Gideon Nav would read, and yeah, let's go with that. So I'm just maybe trying to start out to say, like, I'm gonna suggest books to characters and hopefully continue this idea on in the future. So let's get on with it. So I think first off, Gideon might like A Fire and Stars by Audrey Colthurst, and that is because it's a lovely sapphic relationship in this book, and I think she'd dig the romance, and there's smut in here which she would absolutely love. Not too much smut, but I think she would still be a sucker for the romance in this book, because I think deep down now Gideon's a bit of a romantic, so yeah, I think she'd adore this. I know I definitely did. I also 100% think Gideon would adore the band series by Nicholas Eames, so that's The Kings of the Wild and Bloody Rose. So she would absolutely adore the fighting. She would love the fighting scene in these books. These books are queer. There's lots of queer characters. So in this book we have a gay character called Moog, and I think she would love his humour and just the way he speaks and what he does and just the randomness that comes out of that character. I think she would love Moog. And there's a sapphic romance in Bloody Rose, and women loving women characters. So I think she would adore this because of that and the romance and the yeah, all of that, and just the quests and the fighting. I think people attacking things with swords is definitely Gideon's wavelength, so I think she'd love that. The next book I think Gideon would love is Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I think she would love the romance in this book because, again, it's just a small book as well, so she'd be able to read it fast enough. I think she'd love the romance. The relationship that takes place in this book is polyamorous. I think she might like the new kind of take on that and how it's portrayed in this book. I think she'd really appreciate that. Obviously there's like women loving women in this book, which she'd love, as well as smut, and like one of the characters I think would be on a very similar wavelength to like her, like basically like her views on like sex and all that kind of stuff. She would just be straight in there with that character and love her to pieces, I think. So I think I already know who Gideon's favourite character would be in this book. I also think she'd love like the dark themed of this. Obviously there's vampires and death and blood and all that kind of stuff, and I think Gideon would love all of that stuff. And I know that's her life already, but I think she'd love like a different take on a very dark theme, so I think Gideon would be all over that too. And again, strong-willed women, and obviously that wavelength is there. So I'll insert a picture here somewhere of one of the comics for Saga. I think she'd love this because there are, like, the relationship in this book is great, and I think she would love the dynamics of that relationship because they're very sarcastic with each other and very direct. I think that's a kind of characterization that Gideon would really appreciate in the characters she's reading about. It's a comic, and I already know that Gideon loves her comics, so so that's the well, magazines at least, but comics are very close to magazines, so I suppose either way. So I think she would love the dynamic of the relationship in that story, as well as the adventure and the explicit content of the story, because there's a lot of that, and I think she'd definitely be in that comic for the explicit scenes. So yes, definitely I think Gideon would love those comics. Going on like a very opposing wavelength of what I've been saying and suggesting for Gideon so far, I also think she would like The Prince and the Dressmaker, just because it's so cute. And I feel like the attraction that she feels in this book, the person she's specifically attracted to in Gideon the Ninth, I feel like the kind of cutesy, whimsical, nice things would be something that Gideon would read, but in privacy. Like, I don't think she would like anybody catch her reading this, just because she doesn't want to be seen as somebody who likes cute things. But I definitely think she'd like it either way, even if it was in secret. So I feel like it also has the dynamics of a friendship that Gideon might want to have if she led a bit of a different life. So yeah, I'm chucking this in there anyway. Another comic I think she might like is On a Sunbeam, and that's by Tilly Walden. It's a big chunky comic, but there are only female and non-binary characters in this book. There are literally 0 men, which I think she'd appreciate just from the get-go. And it's a very kind of sci-fi, so the kind of setting that she might be used to, travelling through space and lots of crazy things happening, but also like kind of normal everyday life. And I think she'd appreciate seeing people have a very normal life, and the kind of life she didn't have. And I think she'd maybe live vicariously through them. So I think she might like this too. Again, I think she'd appreciate there just being no men in this comic. Some comics that I just started reading, I think she might also like, is Rat Queens. I've only read the first 2 volumes so far, but I think they would be perfect for Gideon's sense of humour, to be honest. They are like very direct, very sarcastic, and they just don't care. And I think she would love that kind of, I feel like she would just be in that headspace anyway. That's the way she thinks, and the way she's very direct, like she doesn't care. She just is who she is, very unapologetically, and I feel like Gideon would appreciate the main characters of this book, and I think she would very specifically like, I'm forgetting the names, but I will put a picture up of the character that I mean. I think she'd very specifically like this character, but it's like the very chill, laid back character. I think you'd know what I mean if you've read Rat Queens, but I think she'd like this character very specifically. It's very definitely Gideon's sense of humour. I also think she would love any Deadpool comic, because again, very much Gideon's sense of humour, and the way that Deadpool's just so unapologetically himself and crazy, and to hell with any consequences, he'll just do things anyway. And I think Gideon would love to read about that kind of character, so definitely Deadpool. It would make her laugh a lot. So I would also say maybe Gideon would love The Witcher, because swords and monsters, I think she would love it, because she'd just be able to be in that headspace, because that's her. She loves swords, and I think fighting monsters is something she's happy to do. So definitely, I think she'd like The Witcher too, and anything like that. So just an honourable mention, my partner's also suggested a book for Gideon. I haven't read The Meddling Kids. So this is Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. And my partner says that Gideon would also like this. I would probably agree, because it's very dark, kind of themed and all that kind of good stuff. So, quote from my partner to why Gideon would like this book. It's got scary spooks, and the de facto main character is either a butch lesbian or trans masc. Their gender's a bit undefined. They F-bomb a lot. I would say, yeah, Gideon does that too. And there's a nice dog. Everyone likes a nice dog. And I feel like that's aimed more towards Nona the Ninth, but he doesn't know that. Everybody likes nice dogs. Yeah, I kind of have to agree with that. But that sounds very much up Gideon Street as well, and like her kind of sense of humour and thought process. So I would have to agree, even though I haven't read it, but that's his mention that he wanted me to add to the list, so I put it on here too. So yeah, most of that list was inclusive of LGBTQ queer characters in some kind of way. So I feel like us in the queer community just prefer to read books with LGBTQ plus content in them, so that's why I added a lot of LGBTQ plus books in this list because I think Gideon would definitely appreciate reading something that she can identify more with, just like a lot of us do. So that's why I added them, and a lot of them I think she would definitely like. So if she read, I don't know how much Gideon reads. I don't think she gets to read much, but if she was a reader, I think these are the books she might like. So, but yeah, they're the kind of books I think Gideon would read. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time. TTFN, bye bye.